This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today it is Monday. It's October 7th, 2024. Thank you for joining us on thetruthcentral.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. Take a look at God's Five Stones, G-O-D, no apostrophe, S-F-I-V-E-S-D, you spell out five, and then stones is plural, S-T-O-N-E-S, godsfivestones.com. It's our 501c3. And what we're covering is the algorithms that are in the databases of the state election boards across the country. And this is pretty, actually, you can have a database that's supposed to be pristine of voters, but it's filled with cloned votes. It's filled with this is the website Chris is showing it to you right now. And I think essentially the intelligence agencies have moved in now to think they can control the elections. They're controlling about everything else, control the pandemic, etc. Now, we found out that Wisconsin also has, it's the first battleground state that we found that has algorithms in the database. And this is a major story in that if we have corrupted databases for voters, we've gone that far in corrupting the election process, we don't have then fair elections at all. And these algorithms can be used to vote, to create voters that don't exist, they're completely made up, to get them legitimate ID numbers in the states and then to vote them. It's an incredible story. I mean, it's amazing to think that this is actually going on, but it is. And we're doing what we can to make it clear, to stop it, and to get these. And I think as the election nears, if in fact there's voters who are created, made up, and they flip the elections, I don't think there's a single state with an algorithm in the database, and that could be. They can all be challenged because it's like a casino. If the casino's playing with marked cards, that casino can't prove you lost any hand. Well, it's the same here. If the voter rolls are rigged such that they have algorithms in them, how do you know that you got a fair election? You don't. That's the problem. All right, I want to play this thing from Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is now out there saying openly that if they don't have censorship, they can't control the narrative. And I think the Democrats are really concerned that they're losing the narrative totally because the country does not want to eat bugs. They don't want to have gay agenda dominate their lives. Let's listen to Hillary. Go ahead and play that, Chris.
If the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And
well, who's the we that's losing total control? Is that Hillary and the CIA? Is it her and her buddies? This leftist crowd, the communists, they lose control. I mean, that's what the First Amendment is supposed to be about. The First Amendment is supposed to be about robust discussion. Chris, I want you to bring you in and comment on this. This one strikes me as being really completely over the top. And but that she's out there saying this now makes it clear that there's no illusions that the Democratic Party has gone completely totalitarian.
Well, again, it's about controlling the narrative. When let's say the New World Order, the far left here, or whoever is in control wants to, let's say gaslight America, they need the Operation Mockingbird media to repeat things over and over again. They need to, as I'll use their term, they need to marginalize anybody with contrarian thoughts, whether it be proven as far as scientifically, or whether it be proven as far as any other tangible way. The problem is they want the narrative and they want, as she said, control of the country and control of the narrative. Because they have a vision for the future, and that vision for the future cannot be achieved without basically control of information. And that's what she's saying. That's exactly what she's saying right now.
Yeah, but anybody who wants Hillary Clinton in control is nuts.
I don't even think the current deep state wants her in control at this point.
Well, they didn't want Kamala either, but they got stuck with her.
Yeah.
And Kamala, I can't. It's still hard for me to imagine anybody's going to vote for a Kamala. I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous. It seems like the only way the Democrats can win is by cheating. They don't have a platform that anybody wants to vote for.
Well,
I mean,
she brings joy, doesn't she?
yeah, right. Okay, let's go on to some of the other stories that are going. The dock strike, dock workers' strike got postponed until January. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen after the election. And so things are getting pushed down the pike until after the election. The economy is so fragile at this point. I mean, it's like things are, people are thinking, oh, well, everything's normal. You go around and look at the cities, everything is normal. The cities are busy. And so people are thinking, well, nothing could go wrong with the economy. Well, all it's going to take is some bankruptcies to start. And you'll see quickly the credit crash internationally. Gold is right now $2,657 an ounce, and silver's at $31.91 an ounce. They're both holding. Gold's holding over $2,600 an ounce, and silver's holding over $30 an ounce. This is what I've been predicting in this book I wrote on how a coming global crash is going to create an historic gold rush, and it's happening. We're in the process of seeing it unfold. And what we're going to offer here now with Swiss America, call Swiss America 1-800-519-6268. 1-800-519-6268. Get a copy of this book. It will explain to you how we're seeing with the coming of what's going on in terms of the BRIC nations, which are moving towards a gold standard. They want to have a gold in place for a new currency. They're going to be meeting by the end of the year. And this meeting, I think, could be historic in terms of its impact in creating a new historic gold standard, which our dollar will not be able to meet. These kinds of challenges are coming. And it's just, I feel like we're in a transition period of time right now, that everything is really in abeyance or change, in that, the amount of debt we have and the amount of debt we're accumulating every day is just unsustainable. And I don't see any end in sight for that. So call and get a copy of this book, 1-800-519-6268. Also, we're going to start focusing on a redo of the truthcentral.com. I think this week we're going to start looking at some different templates, some different ways to do the website. We had started out doing aggregation of news, but I think it's just gotten too busy. I think we're going to go into a different format altogether, more of a magazine type structure, more focusing on the podcasts, and doing, hopefully in this next year, we can do more interviews. The Secret War, what Swiss America is offering are a lot of things on the website. You can get the Secret War Against Cash. That's one of the more important publications they've done, and the digital currency is on the way. If you like what we're doing, please support our sponsors, and the links are here on the website. You can get this Walking Liberty $50 offer with Swiss America, which is 250 of these coins at about their value in silver as a one-time introductory offer. And also talk to Swiss America about your 401ks and your IRAs. You get your IRAs out of the stock market. I'm encouraging everybody to do this. I think the stock market is going to suffer some major hits in the next few months. And once the election is over, I think we're going to see the beginning of a economic upheaval that's going to make 2007, 2008 look like it was a minor adjustment. We're in for some massive adjustments right now, globally. And with the insanity still going on in the world on, having wind and solar, although it's abated during the election. I mean, it's amazing how many of the left themes have abated right for this period of time. The left does not want to campaign on electric vehicles. They don't work, and everybody knows it. The junkyards are getting filled with them, and they can't move them off of car lots. No one really wants to buy these things because there's not enough chargers. Things don't move when they're out of electricity. They don't move. In fact, you can't even open the doors. They're a bad idea. Same as the wind and solar. They thought they could take the whole Sahara Desert and make it into solar. Well, when they try that, these panels heat up the desert. So it's not a good idea. These things are just not technologies that really work. They're not efficient. But they never were meant to be efficient. They were meant to kill people. That's the whole point. All right, if we take a look at a few of the other things, this whole hurricane season. Now, the debate is whether or not these storms are going to hurt the Democrats or help the Democrats. In some senses, I think the concern is that North Carolina, Georgia, these are states that are not returning the mail-in ballots. Something like 40,000 mail-in ballots went out, only 1,000 came back. And the question is that because of the storm? Or is it because the people are going to go and vote in person in such mass that doesn't matter? I mean, Trump is holding rallies that are huge. Kamala can barely get 10 people in a room to listen to her. So again, when you look at the metrics of this, it's pretty clear to me that we're having a clear advantage for Trump. And the clear energy of the campaigns is for Trump. You're not having very much enthusiasm at all for Kamala. Why would anyone? She hasn't stood for anything in her life, and her whole presence in the White House is just because Obama wanted her there. Everybody that hates her, including her staff, has quit on her. I think her dog must dislike her. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that she's going to be president of the United States. It's frightening to think how low we've come in our politics. But again, the question is going to be whether or not these storms are going to be a Katrina moment. In other words, Katrina was disastrous when it hit. You find the whole impact politically is the question. Is it going to hurt Kamala because she hasn't done anything? They're not bringing FEMA in. They're not bringing the aid in. It's like they want to punish these states because these states are red states. But again, if North Carolina and Georgia and states like this, again, Georgia already went for Biden. Well, if it goes for Kamala this time, again, we're into the same pattern of losses that could elect Kamala to be president, as remarkable as that is. I mean, I find the idea mind-bending that Kamala and this guy Waltz could actually be president and vice president. They came from nowhere. They are nothing. But again, with this, the next one hitting Milton, this Hurricane Milton, which is now a Category 1 hurricane. It's going to strike Florida. And whether it goes out to sea from then, it goes up the seacoast, I don't know. But again, we're in hurricane season. And these are storms which can impact the presidential election. And could, quite frankly, I think, do damage to Kamala because the administration is not responding. But where's the media? Why isn't the media? If this were President Trump and he weren't responding, the media would be all over it. But since it's Kamala and Biden, they get a pass. Now, another story that developed over the weekend is that these Argentinian gangs, which are now, they had occupied a San Antonio apartment complex. Okay, they were raided, combination of state, city, and federal raid, and there were 20 arrests, detentions on Saturday with this Venezuelan gang to get them out of there. Saying like more than 150 police participated in the raid. Now, the idea that we have Venezuelan gangs in the United States just occupying property is astounding. And the whole idea we've lost control of the country. We've lost control of law enforcement. We've lost control of, the civility that made this nation great for so many years. Now, a country that's divided like this, where we have a massive influx of immigrants that we're not going to assimilate, certainly not right away, and we're bringing in gangs because we're not vetting these people. So we're bringing in gangs and various Mara, which are the worst of the thugs. Why are we doing this? It's suicidal. Chris, you want to comment on this? I mean, I think again, we're seeing is a loss here of control on the part of the authorities, who are overwhelmed by this influx of illegals, and they can't prevent them. I mean, I'm watching videos
Mhm.
on X of all the lootings going on, all the people randomly being beaten, of all the incidents going on across the country of violence.
Again, we're taking in it. It sounded silly when in 2016, Donald Trump was saying we're taking in too many criminals. We're taking in bad hombres, if you will. The idea was it was happening, but since the media wasn't reporting it, and it would have made Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama look bad during the early part of the 2010s. There was nothing about it. Absolutely nothing. These are people who covered for that administration greatly because I guess they were afraid of being called racist, or they really wanted their people in charge. The idea is when Trump finally said it, it looked like, well, it wasn't in the news. People were saying, hey, nobody reported that. Then later on, we saw this get worse and worse. Slightly afterwards, he comes in and get controlled. Biden comes in. Title 42 goes down, and all of a sudden, the influx is worse. We're getting gangs from all over Central and South America, not just the two countries, and it's only going to get worse unless proper vetting happens. And the and it perplexes me how people just don't notice this is happening when you see it every day. But it doesn't perplex me, if you don't mind me going on slightly longer, that the politicians, the far left, the comfy people in their ivory towers, set policy to bring in these gangs because hey, their idea is to get diversity no matter who. Okay, no matter what comes in, the idea is to bring in diverse numbers to show the world that we're accepting everybody. We're good people. But the policies that they push forth, they don't have to live with. The regular people have to live with them. The poorer neighborhoods have to live with them, but they're sheltered in their own little, let's say, protected neighborhoods.
Yeah, we can send billions to Ukraine,
Right,
and we're flooding the country with illegal immigrants that we're paying for. We're providing them credit cards and telephones, and now apartments,
right.
hotels to live in.
Mm.
So we're subsidizing all that, but yet we can't provide anything for the survivors of the hurricane.
Yep, if somebody like Eric Adams, a fellow Democrat, speaks out, well, hell be coming upon them and his associates, as you've seen in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, and if the New York City, now the New York City, all these officials are under investigation by the
Yeah.
federal government. As soon as they push back, as soon as they say that there's too many immigrants, suddenly they become under investigation. So in other words, if the Democrats are controlling, they're controlling by fear, and they compromise so many of these people. This is, I think, going to find out with P. Diddy. This whole thing is going to be all the tapes he's got of all the people that he can blackmail for these sex parties. It's going to be, again, you can't get out of these things. These are satanic kinds of forces, and once you're into that, there's no out. If you come out, they'll destroy you. And we've got the world being run today by a satanic force that is superseding all the governments, and it's pervasive. It cuts across the entire society, and we've got wars breaking out. Russia just took out. They were knocked out 80% of the critical infrastructure in this one town, which is key to them taking this one of the two provinces, Donetsk. Russia's going to control these two provinces that are close to Russia and largely Russian speaking. And when Russia's taking out these villages, there's no way that the Ukrainians are going to push back against it. So the Ukrainian army right now is old. It's conscripts. They are being decimated and killed. They're not very well trained, and they're running from battle. Chris?
You can't blame them at this point. It's a losing battle. They're recruiting prisoners right now. They're recruiting people from prisons to try to fight. And of course, you have some crazy people trying to get some Afghanistan or people from Afghanistan to fight in Ukraine, but that guy's, you know,
Yeah, right.
right. But the point I'm trying to make here is this is a losing battle, but we're pouring for some reason a whole boatload of money in to the point where we don't have enough reserves to give to our own people when a disaster strikes, and
Well,
that's an issue.
or
That's an issue.
or we don't have the will to do it. That's the issue too. In other words, if we're politically providing aid in disasters, that if there's some calculation here that if FEMA does not act, these people will not be able to vote effectively. Or I mean, I can't imagine why in a disaster like this they wouldn't be pumping money into Georgia and these other states in order to win the support of people who are affected by the disaster. Instead, all they're doing is alienating people.
Well, if you went on social media, you'd see on X there these far lefties are celebrating what happened, talking about how they're getting rid of. I don't know. This one Gen Z girl was posting about how she's happy to see these so-called sundown towns. You know the reference. Go one by one thanks to the hurricane or Hurricane Helene, and all these other leftists are talking about how or celebrating the idea that red states got hurt. And I think the mentality goes within the current state of the Democrat Party today because they want to show, hey, I want to show our base that we're going to get even with these people. So let's throw them $750. Oh, by the way, same thing with Hawaii. Throw them all a couple $100. We need to get that money for illegals because that's what our base wants. Our base also wants us to fight Ukraine. Well, really, the factions, or let's say Joe Biden's business interests, really want us to pump all sorts of money in Ukraine.
Well, we're again in the expanding wars. So we've got an economic problem with the economy that is being propped up right now by just liquidity, borrowing, liquidity, spending. Stock market is going to stay buoyant until that liquidity dries up. The stock market is going to collapse. Same way with the credit problem, it will eventually come to roost. People are going to have to pay the credit. And how are they going to pay it when they just keep compounding and living on the credit? The other thing we've got is that I think we're on the verge here now of a massive attack by Israel on Iran. And the question is, how is Israel going to respond? Israel could take out the oil fields that are fueling the Ayatollah's whole money machine, which Biden has allowed to be reinvigorated in order to sponsor terrorism throughout the region. So if we see the oil fields go, that could, that could raise prices of oil dramatically around the world. Oil could suddenly hit $125 a barrel. If the Ayatollahs, my guess is that when Israel does strike Iran, it's going to be massive. I can see that they'll go after the oil fields. They'll go after the nuclear facilities. Just like they did in Lebanon, they're going to know where the mullahs are. They're going to try to kill them. This is going to be a massive strike. And when you look at the leadership we've got in the United States right now, which, they're more for Hamas. Of course, the Hamas protests have quieted down. Gay pride events have shut down largely. We're not talking about gender transitioning. We're not talking about all the climate change. All these themes have been subdued because the Democrats know they're losing themes. Everything Democrats have are losing themes. They don't have a single positive theme to run on. That's what astounds me so much about the fact that the polls are saying that Kamala's winning or getting close. I don't believe it. I think the polls themselves are rigged. Now, I know the mullahs don't want Trump to return, but I think the American people do. We're going to test that here very shortly. Okay, we continue to look, just see what additionally we're looking at, the whole idea. I want to comment on the this misinformation. The fundamental idea in this misinformation and disinformation were terms that were invented in order to promote censorship. Disinformation is what the CIA is putting out. In other words, they've been lying about Lee Harvey Oswald was the assassin of John Kennedy for 61 years. And the book I wrote earlier this year showed with the optical density measurements of the X-rays, Jack Kennedy was shot twice from the front. That should have been obvious from those X-rays in 1963. The whole idea of attacking disinformation because we're going to lose control of the agenda is censorship of free speech. And the idea of free speech is fundamental to being able to have a aggressive discourse, a debate about public policy in the United States, which has been viewed by our founding fathers, and I think rightly so, as vital to us remaining free. If we suppress speech and only allow the approved speech to go forward, we're going to reduce the intellectual ability of this country to function. We need the debate. We need the challenges. And the powers that be, including the Democrats, don't want debate and don't want challenges. Chris, any comments on that? And I want to wrap up today. I think, again, we're covering themes which are extremely important, and it's overwhelming to me how we're at this point.
Well, again, if you disagree with the narrative, it's misinformation. That's pretty easy. Or it's disinformation because that's what they want to do. In fact, we have to remember that, and again, we have to keep remembering the Democrat Party, the Biden administration has already tossed people in jail for speaking out against them. They tossed senior citizens in jail for showing up at a protest. They bailed out beforehand. They had a hand in bailing out people who burned down cities and towns because they protested on their side. The idea is it's misinformation if it doesn't agree with the actual narrative. Doesn't matter. Even if it's the truth that comes out later on, goes down the memory hole, people still think it was misinformation.
It's amazing to me the era we're living in. And it had to start with dumbing down the population.
Yeah. Department of Education established in during the Clinton administration, right? So
yes.
Our science and math scores were going down heavily, but the self-esteem and diversity scores were going way up. Coincidence? I think not.
Not at all. It's a strange world we're living in, and it's going to get stranger. But I'm confident in the end, God always wins. God will win here too. But we'll continue to cover these stories. I think we're going to see this week a massive strike by Israel on Iran. We'll see the second hurricane Milton hit Florida, and we're getting closer to the election. So it's intensely now going to focus on whether the Democrats are going to cheat, how much they're going to cheat, and where they're going to cheat. And if the only way the Democrats can win is by cheating, well, keep following us at gods5stones.com. We're going to do our best to prevent it. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. The end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. By the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14, join me. We got to get down on our knees and repent. Let too many babies die since Roe v. Wade. We've got to repent for taking God out of our schools, out of our hearts, out of our lives. But God did not create this experiment with human beings to fail. It's Dr. Jerome Corsi at the Truth Central. We're doing podcasts every weekday. Thank you for joining us. God bless.